Matt, you or
Opening up the doors, speaking order at 10 first. Confidence key.
4 seconds.
Opening opposition. Light first, Bradley. Even key or late, please. Closing up.
Do I speak first key? I might get to be stressed.
And closing opposition.
Yeah, sorry. She seemed to pick all the facts.
So she did something.
Okay.
Like, I'm not going to discuss in case we don't.
This debate is about a key choice our criminal justice system faces, and that's one whether it's going to use arbitrary, broad-reaching systems that target a huge proportion of people within relatively poor and impoverished communities, or whether we allow more flexible ability in sentencing to be able to say that we're going to target certain people with disproportionate sentences, and which of those systems is best going to break the system of crime. I'm going to be honest, when I looked at this motion first, I thought it was a hard OG. We think we've got a pretty sensible and robust model we're going to deliver to you. First, we're going to allow this to be considered as an aggravating factor in sentencing on a case-by-case basis. So when people see that a crime is being committed within a community where there is a high crime rate, the judge will be able to consider that as one of many factors that will be used in order to increase that sentence. We think that we'll give them a broad range of flexibility to do so for relatively large crimes. We expect this would be in the range of, say, tripling the potential sentence that exists for things like aggravating assault with a weapon. So say that we go from 5 years to 15 years is the maximum allowable amount, and would allow them to be able to use those sentencing guidelines flexibly. Secondly, we believe this would apply not to very low-level crime, but relatively minor things. The way we see this being used is used to target the worst offenders and those who are committing violent crime and causing the most disruption. Thirdly, we think this system replaces one where we target a broad range of relatively low-level offenders and give them sentences and send them to jail at all. So we repeal systems like mandatory minima, we repeal things like 3 strikes laws, things which we believe cause disproportionate harm without targeting the true levels of crime. Fourthly, we'd be very happy to consider alternative forms of criminal justice reform. We'd envisage a more progressive prison system that takes on board the latest research in criminology, like chuck people on a freezing Swedish island, because apparently that's something that's relatively light and very much in favour. We'd also be willing to consider other forms of reform to the extent they do veto with some of the concerns that they might have with regards to things like racial biases, things like eliminating judge elections. Ultimately, we believe we're willing to stand behind a broad range of reforms to make the system work, because we think it's an effective one at eliminating the huge problems of crime faced in these communities. 4 points in this speech.
Clarification.
If it's an actual clarification, sure.
Would you build into the law that this only applies to certain violent assaults? So if a judge decided that a certain low-level crime was serious enough to him and it happened in a tough community, he would still allow them to increase the sentence?
Judges would be constrained as to the type of crimes and seriousness and would consider this in light of other factors such as the extent to which they've committed previous crimes. So 4 points in this speech. First, I'm going to look at why this eliminates other injustices. We believe there's a huge problem when we send a large number of very low-level offenders to prison. And this creates a training ground for individuals where they're sent to prison to other criminals and gain knowledge and information that is likely to lead to a life of crime. We believe this often disrupts their life in such a way that they're unable to live a normal life when they go outside of prison and often face skills that have decayed, face stigma in the community that means they're unable to integrate, and also have lost the basic ability for many children to be able to have strong fathers who are able to look after them and care for them. We think the current system of things like mandatory minimum, particularly things like drug crime, causes a large number of people to be sent to prison who really shouldn't be there and be dealt with in a much more effective way. We think that this system allows us to say, look, crime is incredibly negative within communities where high crime rates occur. But the way we solve this is to target the people who are the real causes of this. So the people who are the drug kids who are causing trafficking within that community, rather than the foot soldiers who are taking on many of the day-to-day risks within that community's drug trafficking operation. What this means is that we have a much more targeted system, a much more sensible system that's able to look at who is actually causing these crimes. Secondly, I'm going to look at why we believe this is similar to many other aggravating factors that we consider. So the reason that we consider that if you have committed previous crimes that can be used in sentencing to increase your sentence is because we believe that it increases the likelihood that you're likely to commit other crimes, and that the fact that you're committed this particular crime is a signal of that fact. If you're in a high crime area, it is highly likely that you're able to engage in other criminal activity, and the individuals we're talking about are often part of large networks of gangs who commit crime on a systematic basis. What that means is that looking at the probability that that individual causes harm to the community, we're able to say that they pose a much greater risk to the community than other individuals who don't have that aggregating factor at play. So this is similar to other ways that other changes that we see in sentencing that take into account the total impact it has on the community, and we allow judges the flexibility to be able to use the full set of information that's available here, rather than just a relatively limited set of information, which we currently restrict them to. Thirdly, we have to look at why it's good that we take them out of the community and break the links that they have with gangs. So we believe that it's important that we disrupt criminal networks by removing the individuals who are key to those. This is important because those networks often rely upon particular individuals who are well connected, who have particular experience, who are particularly good at negotiating local environments or being able to work out how to connect with people. What we do is we place a disproportionate response on the individuals who are causing most harm and are the key people holding together that system. So we're more likely to see very fragmented gang structures that break up once we remove the key leaders and we're squabbling over who's actually taking the lead of that gang. You're less likely to have the kind of cohesive criminal organizations that are able to terrorize entire communities on a large basis. Furthermore, we're able to invest more resources in a more limited number of people in prison. So we're able to better finance things like rehabilitation programs, which are going to help people to be able to move on for the long term. Fourthly, I'm going to look at why this improves the community response to policing. Because we believe in many high crime areas, people don't believe that when they report crimes to the police, that that's something that's going to be taken seriously. So if they see that people get off on what they perceive as relatively light sentences, they're less likely to be involved in the reporting of those crimes, even if those have been particularly harmful to them. What this system does is says that if you have been key to a criminal enterprise, we're going to throw a book at you and remove you from that community. So it means that communities are more likely to engage in positive, proactive community policing that see the informal networks that are important to those communities, helping catch more of the people who are essential to the running of gangs. Furthermore, if you're more likely to report if you're not afraid that an individual is going to come back and be able to attack you. So if you know that someone might otherwise get a 3-month sentence, whereas really they deserve more, you know that individual is not going to be back in your community and able to terrorize you and potentially place your own safety at risk in a very limited amount of time. This is a system that targets the real causes of crime without destroying the lives of people whose lives don't need to be destroyed. We focus on the real causes of crime rather than the rhetoric, and that's why we win this debate.
Four arguments in the speech. 1, why it's principally wrong. 2, why it doesn't reduce the level of crime. 3, why it makes these communities overall worse places. And 4thly, why it actually makes individuals more likely to reoffend. First off, 4 points of response. First piece of response is our counter-prop. They had moaned about things like mandatory minimums. They also moaned about things like prison locking efficient, conditionally more likely in Sweden. We are happy to do exactly the same thing that they're doing there. This is not mutually exclusive of this policy. Second, they said judges need more flexibility when making sentencing. There are 2 problems with this argument. The first is that they claim that those judges deploy that flexibility in a good way. It is our contention that they deploy it badly. The second point we're going to make in our case is that they're actually more likely to deploy it badly because you can judge the reason they're being racist. Because now they say, oh, it wasn't because he was black, it was a high crime area. More on that later. Third, they say, oh, you take bad people off the streets. This argument rests on the premise that the problem with crime is a fixed number of criminally disposed individuals, rather than the fact that there are structural reasons in certain contexts where people are likely to commit crime. They think that they can get away with it because they come from an environment where crime is something that is incentivized and inevitable. They make that worse, and my intention is to take people off the streets is relatively marginal benefit, because guess what? There is not a short supply of criminals in the streets it was. Fourth argument they make is, they make a bigger marginal impact on the community. This is false. It rests on the idea that the law of diminishing marginal returns does not in fact exist. The 1,000th crime that happens in the area has less of a marginal impact than the 50th crime that happens in an area, because once there are very, very, very many of them, it simply, has less of an impact. You live in an area where there's lots of criminality, people don't want to invest there, it becomes a no-go zone. People live in fear, right? Whether 1,000 times or 1,000 times doesn't impact that, whereas the first time it happened was tremendous fear in the hearts of everyone who's waiting for that possibility. So I believe that this argument is false. If anything, it's the reason why you should punish people who got better else more. So, why is this policy unfair? 2 reasons. First reason, because actually we think that someone is less culpable for committing crime when they come from an area where that crime is wanted. 2 reasons why that's the case. The first is that ultimately it is worth recognizing that the impact of crime is the same on both sides. When you rob someone, you take something away from you, so disregard their rights, their standards. When you kill someone, the same is true. That is true where that person is in Watson, it's true where that person is on the Upper East Side of New York. Second, I actually think it is less your fault, less something you should be blamed for. When you come from an environment where there is a huge economic incentive to commit crime, where there is a gang culture that pressures people into committing crime, where there is an environment where police are absent and seen as a threat to the community, you feel much more resentment towards the state, and therefore much more propensity to disobey it by committing crime. I think all of these are reasons why it's not your evil that is making you commit crime, it's simply a function of circumstance. My question to the government team is, why do we punish manslaughter less than murder? Because we recognize that when you do something that it is less you that is doing it, it is more a function of circumstance, you should be blamed less for it. It is the same argument applies in this case. You should punish these people less because it's less their fault, their environment is in many ways pushing them towards it. Someone from Watts is not more inherently criminal, evil, someone from Beverly Hills. The reality is that they just have an environment with different pressures to push them towards that. Next, I think that even if this policy is in principle just going to be employed in a racist way, it's worth recognizing right from the start that these areas are just inherently more likely to be minority and working classes. Poverty is often correlated with crime. There's often a culture of gang violence that pushes people into committing crime. Because the trust in the state is reduced, and to a certain extent, it's recursive. If you come from a high crime area where crime is normalized, you're just more likely to do it. Why is this a problem? Because the judicial system, the mechanism that they're relying on to do this, is inherently racist. Why is this true? Why? Because either judges are selected by populaces, who are definitely very racist, or in the vast majority of jurisdictions, judges are selected by other judges. Here there's a recursive. judges have to be all white men with lots of racist prejudices. They select other judges who happen to have those prejudices, so that continues. Maybe it diminishes over time, but the point is the long run is a very long time, and it hasn't diminished particularly much. Why is this important? Two reasons. First of all, by giving more flexibility to racist people to do racist punishments, oddly enough, you get more racism. You can have this inherent fact. Even if maybe it is the case that the black person should not be punished more because of all the other factors they're saying. I think a racist judge is all like saying, "You're punished for high crime areas, black, I don't like them." The second argument, however, is that it becomes much easier to justify racism. So the moment you can see which judges give what sentencing people from what backgrounds, you can call them out. Now they can just say, "Oh, not my fault, it's the area that they came from. They came from a high crime area, that's why I'm punished." Give them a cover and a justification for racism. We think that's abhorrent. Second argument, why this doesn't in fact reduce the total level of crime? Two reasons. First of all, there's simply no deterrence. Four reasons why this is the case. First, simply criminals don't think they're going to get caught. Maybe it's the case that if I get caught, my punishment as well. That is conditioned by a punishment that is very low, so it doesn't impact that system very much. Second, these crimes are largely opportunistic and are not even managed. Not like someone thinks, very carefully, I'm going to go like rob this bank in a really subtle way. It's crime that happens on the moment with your pressures. You see someone coming from a rival gang, you have a gun, and you should be doing that situation when someone is doing that probabilistic calculation. Third argument, there are simply diminishing marginal returns. If I can be in jail for 5 years, or 10 years, or 20 years, honestly, I just don't think that makes a huge difference to me. I'm going to be in jail for a fucking long time. I very much don't think people are doing anything else in their heads. No, fourth reason, I just don't think many of these people know the statute. Honestly, I just don't think they know what punishments to get, what crimes. Because I think I don't know those things. I think people with very low level, not even graduated from high school, are probably in the same boat. Second, people are much less likely to inform and cooperate with police officers. Why? Because this is a policy that explicitly says we as law enforcement are biased against certain areas. We will punish you more once, or south side of Chicago, or Queens, and we will punish the Upper East Side or Beverly Hills. That means people are much less likely to cooperate with the police service that they see as structurally racist. Two reasons. First off, because you don't feel that people who are shopping are just getting an unfair punishment because they punish where they're from and not for what they did. But second, because now you see much more of a scam, giving something away to a policy, giving someone away to a government and an institution that's implemented a structurally racist policy that explicitly discriminates against your area. Close it.
You probably know the statutes for financial crimes. Why isn't it a good idea to be creative, to demand higher sentencing for financial crimes and not happen?
Because I don't think that, like, I think you spend a lot of time to go into finance. I just don't think it's the same like qualification requirements when you want to go into dealing with. Third argument, sorry. You're more likely to have large populations of youth in these areas in general. Why is this important? Because those people are one, taking out the neighborhoods, two, taking out the families, and three, have to reacclimatize after a long period of being away from society. That means they are less economically productive. It means the areas are ones where more people have been raised in single-parent houses. It means the large numbers of people simply don't know how to deal with society. They haven't been to a shop where you can pay things, they've been in prison, so people have stuff brought to them. That means crime is more likely. It also means the general economic well-being of these areas are lower, but people have been raised by parents who can't afford them, by living in communities where people are not involved because they are in the clinic. It also validates the notion that these areas are inherently violent, because they're people from racial minorities, which faces very discriminatory policies like very mandatory minimums. They want something, the validation policy by the government, by the mainstream, makes discrimination mainstream. CF Donald Trump with a huge impact on the level of racism and usually considered a big friend in the United States. The validation by government or by central authority has a huge impact on social acceptability of these sorts of views, and I like how they implemented in policy. Finally, very simply, individuals are more likely to commit crime. Because longer time in prison, because of your background, is exactly the thing that breeds the resentment that makes people significantly more likely to commit crime. More time in prison is you're more likely to fall into sorts of patterns of criminality and reliance on other criminals that will drive people reoffending. And finally, when more people outside of prison think that you were in there for the wrong reason, because of where you were from, not what you did, well, let's like to get the sort of support of your life, the sort of support of your rehabilitation is what drives better behavior. I'm exceptionally proud to stand here in this horrible proposal.
Legal position.
Open government identified a whole host of issues which we accept are problems, and we accept we can deal with the ways that Tom explained are not contingent on this policy. But the problem with what they keep refusing to do is explain why in particular is this policy needed. This can be seen, for example, in the previous speech. We hear that we need to punish campaigns, right? We need to keep them away from the communities for a long period of time because they have such a big impact on those communities which is really negative. That's exactly why we already have laws that says that if you're a more senior member of like gangs, etc., your sentencing is higher because you have committed other crimes. You haven't just committed, like, say, robbery, right? You committed conspiracy. You probably committed, like, conspiracy to murder. You orchestrated other crime. The existing system already deals with that problem, right? Secondly, the response on judgments, right? So Tom identifies that this is going to be a problem. Doesn't explain how they get around it. Michael explains why it's the case that because of the discretion they're given under their model, they're currently in the status quo, for example, of racist judgments, right? And one of the ways that we're able to identify that they're racist judgments is we go, hold on a minute. You consistently give people who are, say, black in the US a higher sentence than you do than white people for the same crime, right? The only explanation for that is you're a racist. The problem they have now under this law, the problem they create, is judges of this nature who are in areas where there's high crime, right, who actually don't necessarily think that there's a good reason to put these people in prison for longer, apart from the fact they want to do so because they're racist. It's impossible to call these people out now because it's like, oh no, I'm actually protecting black people, right? They end up becoming champions or being portrayed to be champions. It's far harder to challenge. The response doesn't deal with that. The response is like we train, etc., doesn't deal with that issue, right? I want to talk about community buy-in, right? There's this good clash on this top half, right? Because they acknowledge that we need community buy-in to make these places better. But why is it that the community buy-in is going to be best? The first reason is the principal claim that Michael gives you, right? Unsurprisingly, many of us feel that if you commit a crime in one area and someone commits the exact same crime in another area, at worst, your punishment should be the same, right? But if we're going to give anyone discretion, surely it makes more sense to give someone discretion because the state screwed them over to the point where their base position is like less good than it should be due to like failures of education, failures of providing like basic infrastructure in those neighborhoods, preventing them from providing like jobs and stuff for their parents, right? Surely if we're going to give discretion to anyone, it's those people who will fail, irrespective of their attempt to say no, it's not the case. That's what the perception is in these neighborhoods, right? If you're in these neighborhoods of high crime, predominantly like ethnic minority would be like in the USA in particular, Hispanic or African American, right? You feel that the state is already against you because your people are going to prison disproportionately, and to the extent that they have actually committed crimes, that often it wasn't really their fault as an instance. These guys then get up and say the solution to this problem is to penalize them even more, but it's okay because the community is now going to be on board, right? Why is it that they're not going to be on board? Because now the underlying message that we leave them with is we are being treated unfairly by the state, we're being discriminated against, right? Why is that so damaging? The first reason it's so damaging is it becomes incredibly difficult for citizens of that community to now rat out other members of that community who committed crime. Because where previously in the status quo, it's like, look, you've committed crime against us, we need to tell the police so they can go to prison so we can be protected. Now the rhetoric, like some people will still have that, but it's a lot easier now for people to go, oh, actually, yeah, we're being really screwed here, and the punishment they're going to get is disproportionate, so I'm not going to say anything. Why is that damaging then? Is there are now more criminals in these areas because they're not actually being sentenced in the first place. No, the most difficult thing about reducing crime is finding the criminal in the first place, having enough proof. You need witnesses for all of these crimes, robbery, like physical violence, etc. You need people to come forward and say, I saw what happened, and this is why it was damaged. Right? The second thing why the buy-in is problematic, or the lack of buy-in, is that the way that these communities will often get bigger, will often get better, is that by engagement with the state, right? So, for example, kids of this community going to school and being told you should engage in school, it's the way to get better, it's the way to improve, right? It's harder for parents to justify that for their children, to say those kinds of things to their children, and it's harder for those kids who've seen like the disproportionate punishments issued out to people of their colour to buy into other state infrastructure. When you see that the state infrastructure is being incredibly racist from your point of view, in the context of sentencing. Therefore, you get fewer buy-in, less buy-in, at schools. You get less buy-in like community projects, etc. Therefore, it becomes a lot harder for these people to have to essentially pull themselves up, right? But moreover, we say that the problem becomes worse when we use Tom states, which is Tom gives an excellent articulation of why spending lots of time in prison is bad, right? We agree. The problem for them is when you're in prison for that period of time and you don't think you deserve to be there for good reason, right? Why on earth are you going to rehabilitate, right? You need to acknowledge that what you did was wrong, and you need to be a better person when you come out. Therefore, that re-offending from these people when they do eventually come out is going to be higher than it is at the moment, because they actually felt that they've been screwed over, and they're far more likely to focus on sentencing rather than their own culpability committing the crime in the first instance. Therefore, crime goes up because one, you have more offending, two, you have less ratting out, and three, you've not actually helped improve that society improve in the way that it would do better on our side of the house. I'll take a Peter White from closing with the heading.
Isn't it more likely that I give evidence in favor against someone if I know that that person is being taken off the street for the next 20 years as opposed to for the next 3 years?
No, because to the extent that that's what you're worried about, you're going to be worried about, say, like someone else in that scam or whatever it is. That doesn't change. The reason most people rat out is they think that the system is fair, they will get fair trial, etc. If you've seen, say you're black and you've seen someone black commit a crime, even if you acknowledge that what they did was wrong, if you think that they're going to get a triple sentence compared to a white person, there are lots of good reasons not to dock that person. Moreover, what we say will unfortunately happen now is any time there is now an ethnic minority committing a crime in a white area, the rhetoric will be, they're moving to our areas now, right? The rhetoric will be, look, even though we try to help them in their areas by sentencing these people further, they're moving to our areas now. That is only going to increase when you have justified racial issues and reasons. Michael says that, I've stated as well, where like ethnic minorities feel they've been discriminated against. That reduces the ability and the willingness for people, say like white people in America, to support fundamental measures that will actually help these communities get better, like more money spent on infrastructure, more money spent on education, etc. Because from their point of view, they'll see it as we put together this policy to help this community. Not only has that community got worse for the reasons we've stated, but that crime is now moving into our areas. So there's just a loss of order. That's not what we want as a position, right?
Thank you, Deputy Leader of Opposition. So, Government, okay, you go first.
The debate so far has essentially focused on the specific existing perpetrators of violent crime. We've broadly heard from government that they want to be harsher on the 10% of most extreme crimes to crack down on those of the opposition, that harsh punishments make things worse. What this misses is that gangs are dynamic, but it's not just about how you respond to crimes they currently occur, but what happens in response to this change in policy. We think what gangs are going to do, what crime generally is going to do, is change where they geographically carry out crime, because they are punishing in areas where it's committed. We think that they will spread crime into low crime areas with hugely negative consequences. We also think it will vastly increase recruitment into crime. We think the whole landscape of crime is going to be substantially worse from this policy. This isn't just about current bad crimes, but the horrific future that crime can become when you crack down exactly in this way. Firstly, to touch on two great things coming out of opposing government. We hear firstly from Dhruva that we want people to come forward to the police, and if they know that the criminal will be locked up for 3 times the amount of time, then they'll be able to do so. Firstly, we think that we have witness protection programs to deal with exactly this problem. Seems like a particularly odd problem solution mismatch. But also, we heard this also from government. If you want people to come forward and they're afraid of the person getting out of prison, what you need is not a jump from 3 years to 9 years. You need life sentences, which sort of goes against a lot of their other rhetoric on not putting people in prison for longer than they can stand on their side. We think that this was an unusual one where they weren't prepared to commit to the logical extent they needed to actually prove that benefit. Dhruva then tells us police will come forward to follow up crimes that have occurred, assaults or rapes, because they think there'll be more convictions. He justifies this in response to a PI by saying they will change evidentiary standards. Now, maybe I radically misunderstood what we were. I don't think that was it. It definitely was something it's a crazy idea. It is literally absurd to say we're going to prosecute people on a hunch because a policeman thinks that maybe they committed an assault. If you want racist policing, that obviously can only lead to racist policing. If you want terrible justice outcomes, if you want backlash, that's going to do all of those things. We're going to set that aside because we think that was absurd. Now let's look at the dynamic response of criminal gangs with other violence integrated in crime station. We think that the criminals is a particularly responsive one where they stand to make profit by responding to the justice system, not just keeping their practice as it is. So Michael was right. We won't deter the key individuals, the kingpins and gangs from doing crime in the first place when that's their life. But it will change the way they run their business, the way they run their gangs, the way they run their particular manifestations of crime. So if I were leader of the Bloods or the Crips in Adelaide, I wouldn't see this and say, okay, let's carry on our business in confidence exactly the way we've been doing it for the last 20 or 30 years. What I would do, literally day one, is go to the place, I would shift the geographic location with the worst of our crimes and carry that out. What does that mean? I would put the drug stock house in Santa Monica rather than leaving it in the high crime area it is. I would, for instance, if there were going to be a gang war, they're shooting up, plan to have it in Manhattan, a restaurant where the leader of the other gang is coming out after their dinner rather than having it in a parking lot in the Bronx. If we're going to conduct a robbery to add to the coffers of this particular criminal organization, you do it in a relatively well-off shopping center rather than a poorer area. You will see a dramatic geographic spread in crime because they work explicitly in their model, applying this arbitrary license for judges to whack on high sentences based on where the crime was committed rather than where the gang was from. What do you see in response? Communities will go insane in response. Rich people, white people, the people who already want tough policing are literally going to have drive-by shootings in their neighborhood. not just 5 kilometres across the city. It will be on their street. Dhruva was worried about people's kids being in danger. It will be the people who are exactly calling for tough crime already, who literally then have a reason to feel that their kids are in danger because the gangs have been pushed into their areas as a result of their exact policy, which said you will get a lower sentence if you do the crime there and not here. What will they then do? We think that when they see it's in their area and the tough policing they've been promised fails, this will radically change what they use their political voice to call for in change policing. They will say, let's send even more police into poorer areas. They will say, send the police out to target any black person walking through my neighborhood because they're worried about those people. They'll say, let's have high sentences for everyone. So what that means is opening government's nice bits about mandatory minimums, etc. Not only we're not mutually exclusive with our side, but actually degraded over time by their own model because of the backlash against this policing. Secondly, recruitment. If I were a kid on the street who could join the gang, I would be way more likely to do so unfair work. Because under the status quo, if like a low-level job in a gang has a huge downside risk while all the money sits with the kingpins. That radically changes, so thank you, when you lock up the kingpins for longer, or at least say you're going to do so. Why? Because some kingpins, at least, will spend some more time in prison despite the geographic spread. 3 consequences. Firstly, there are more job opportunities higher up the game if you want to jostle for, if you want to fight. That gives you a much higher incentive to join gangs as a lackey and to move your way up because that money is changing. Yes.
So, of course, you can fear immediate legislation, but not the ongoing sustainability of progressive reform. Why doesn't what you're begging for collapse back into mandatory minimum and other harsh elements when you don't have the harsh elements for specific individuals that we have that can sway public opinion?
Hang on, but we're not supporting like particularly different things. What we're saying is let's not do this crazy thing which you're saying, which will be geographically dispersed policing, which itself is what leads to the different perceptions, the spread of crime into rich areas. Our side isn't like standing for particularly progressive reforms that will collapse back to mandatory minimum. We're saying let's not make everything absolutely worse in the way that they're going to do. As soon as we take that off the table, we're not going to have the degrading effects, which is particularly harmful here. What else is going on for this last? Well, there are more people in aggregate who become kingpins because when you lock them up, you have to lock up the next one in order to keep them all out of that cycle. There's more people in prison overall. Thirdly, though, you're going to see internal warring in these gangs as people jostle as well. It was bizarre. The opening government said, we will fragment the gangs and that would be good for safety in the communities. If anyone literally said anything about border health in Mexico, all the violence shoots up when the kid is taken out or locked up. Because that's when people start to fight when they shoot in the streets. When more people join the gangs because there's money to be made, but also the danger rises. We think this is a highly destructive idea. It gives people, firstly, a reason to spread their crime, secondly, a reason to fight for it. It will lead to more death, more prison time, and not deliver the crime benefits they want. Proud to
That's a proposition.
this debate went as follows. Opening opposition said being tough on crime is really bad for all the reasons we've heard in every crime debate. OGO, yeah guys, we know what this policy is about is applying it to a very small subset of crimes in a way that means the vast majority of other criminals get treated less badly, so that those benefits outweigh the small subset of harms that we all know exist. What we then do in CO is go OGO wrong. This actually is a way to reach a propagation mechanism, which means a huge number of people, not just the original people they talked about, get targeted, and thus those harms which they try to dodge land, and they land on the vast majority of people, rather than the tiny minority that opening opposition was talking about. That is why we win. First of all, a quick discussion of CG. They basically say we're going to get more convictions, and this is good. There were seemingly two mechanisms for this. First of all, maybe lowering burdens of evidentiary standards. I pointed out that that's not something we really want to do, particularly with all the racial biases and stuff that we talked about. Then they said, but this gives you a greater incentive because you've got a bigger sentence if you don't do it to give out good information. Two things on this. First of all, there are already witness protection schemes. Second of all, generally the trade-off for these people is this guy might literally kill me and my family versus me going to prison. That's why they don't kill them. I just think fundamentally on a psychological basis, it's they're going to kill me and potentially my family if I rattle them, rather than, you offered me 12 years, I was avoiding 12 years, now I'm getting like 15 years, that means I'm going to reform. I just think the downside risk is so huge that we get very little informing in general. I think that's probably roughly the same, maybe marginal benefits there on both sides of the house. Finally, just even if it was true, this idea of true Karen policemen, these policemen are vigilantes trying to do justice because the legal system isn't effective enough. Generally, they have internalized ideas that people of a certain minority are dangerous, and that means they're more likely to react in certain ways, which is very bad. It exists on both sides. Now I'm going to look at 2 points of action. First of all, the mechanics of how this actually affects gangs and what changes. That's important for working out impacts. Second of all, how this leads to the broader impacts of the criminal justice system and crime generally, and who wins and where there is good information. First, impact on the mechanics. So there are basically this is cutting off the head of the snake. You get rid of the levers, the gangs break down. The issue with this is actually thinking about what their policy is doing. Their policy is saying we're tripling the sentences of really extreme crimes. The thing is, really extreme crimes already have less sentences. It's probably 10 years plus. In short, okay, they go to 30 years plus. But can we just think about how a gang operates? Is it like so? Your leader gets put in prison for 10 years. Are they like going, okay, our leader's gone for 10 years. Are we just going to have an interim gang leader for 10 years and wait for them to get back? Are we just going to like disband and hang around, or maybe go to a committee structure until he gets back for 10 years? Like, no, generally they just get a new person in charge and they keep operating. 10 years is a really long time to wait for someone. You can't just be on hold until they get back. So realistically, yes, 30 years are longer than 10 years, but we're thinking how it affects gang structure is really marginal because they're both really long times and they're going to have to find a new leadership structure on both sides. So we think that's roughly a wash. But what we then do is give 2 actual mechanisms which we think is comparative and make gangs worse in terms of how they're broadly going to profit crime. The first one is that you get a less steady return of kingpins from prison who can resume presumably senior roles through their contracts. What that means is there are going to be more job opportunities at the top of gangs for people lower down, because you don't have this string of people returning from prison at the same rate. You get a third of them in the sentence. With it 3 times higher, I'll take you in a second. What does that mean? Because fundamentally, life for a low-level gang member is actually not that good. You don't get that much pay, there's a huge amount of risk, you can get them incarcerated. The reason why you do it is the chance of becoming really big, making loads of money, getting a really important position in this gang, having loads of power. Now the chance of getting that high role where the benefit is located, it's gone up many times, yes.
I assume you guys still want to catch kingpins, although certainly seem to want to. Is it better or worse we keep that individual out of the community for 20 years or 5 years if we are able to get them on some kind of assault charge?
So the critical thing is, I don't think these kingpins are particularly like criminal geniuses that much better than anyone else in the gang. We think they just run this thing, they're really violent, they're willing to do nasty stuff to get money, because there are loads of other people who take that role. So we don't really care if they're in prison and there's someone else running the gang, or they come back. What we say is critically, you get a greater number of people in gangs in aggregate because the returns at the top are higher. Because they think the probability of getting that good role when they get lots of benefits are higher. So that means you get way more people joining gangs at that low-level roles, which means you get way more gang-related violence, crime, that kind of communities, which is really harmful. It's also bad for all of those people that being in a gang and getting sent to prison on a trumped-up charge is a really nasty thing in and of itself. They get those benefits. Sure, the sentence, the downside of being a kingpin, seems to be larger, but often their lives are pretty shitty anyway. That's why lots of people want to be kingpins, because if your life is really bad, like this is a bit worse, but the upside is so much greater. You get loads of money, loads of power. So we think on balance, if you're more likely to be a kingpin, it's still very attractive, more people join gangs. The second thing that Annie went through very clearly is that you now go to other areas because the chance that you're hit, because the chance that you get a high sentence is much lower. CG say, that those areas prosecute crimes, they care about prosecuting much more. First of all, in lots of countries, the police are really trying to go after gangs as much as they can. Second of all, if the sentence is 3 times lower, you need a 3 times higher chance that you're caught for it on a probability-weighted basis to be less bad for you. So we still think lots of people are likely to go into these areas, commit crimes, to reduce life sentence, so they do get caught, a significant number. And no, you only need a few of them to do this, a few of them to make that judgment, to get loads of crime happening. So sorry, even if you get just a few like gang shootouts in shopping malls, like all the middle class people get terrified. You just need one person in the newspaper who get caught on a crossfire before politicians start going, we need to be tough on all gangs, we need tough sentences to everyone, these people are ruining our communities, children aren't safe, and you get the crap, and generally critically that crap is indiscriminate in terms of the low level people as well as the high level people. That's why fucking friends are so bad. They say, if you're top on crime on one small set, people will want you to be top on crime on another set. No, if you increase the overall sentiment to top on crime, people want the more of it that they can get. If you're top on crime, the top people and the little people, that's even better for everyone. We don't think there's like an opportunity cost to how top on crime you can be. So what does this mean in how we weigh it versus opening opposition? Because they give all the impact on increased recidivism, on the lack of community buy-in, but note that they only do it on these kingpins, which are a small subset of the people in the community, and likely ones who are most likely to reoffend, and the ones that community buy into police. We show why you get a broader top on crime narrative that more people involved in gangs on a much larger level, that the majority of the people in the gangs, that the people who are like much more screwed, much more likely to potentially not reoffend, and you get all the top on crime harms on them, because now they're going to prison more with longer sentences when like legislators pass on sentences. They're like hurting the communities. You get all those OO harms, you get more than 90% of people who aren't kingpins, rather than just 10% of people who OG self-defense policy. That ultimately wins. We're very proud.